I was at a conference recently where somebody said, you know, all that these technologies are going to do is enable us to actually annoy our customers far more quickly and at scale. Hopefully that won't be the case, but you need to really understand the basics to ensure these technologies really are additive. What do you want your customers, your colleagues, your partners to feel? CX leaders really do need to be ready to work quite differently. Do you know, I've been involved in the field of customer experience for over 30 years, and I've seen the last 2 years have more changes than in the previous 28. Specifically, they need to be able to operate across the organization. They've always needed to do that, but it's now critical to actually get the value from the investments in technologies and so on that are happening in the sector. You need to be able to collaborate, you need to be able to encourage and ensure effective cross-business collaboration working. So that cross-business execution muscle is going to be important. But the expectations, not just of customers, but of colleagues, are critical to this role. You know, the real talent that you need, the folks that can actually help you with agile sprints and so on, that 20 to 35-year-old group, they demand to be part of an organization with purpose. Yeah, if you don't get that from your employer, those folks leave. Yeah, so the experience role also needs to bring the experience to life for colleagues, not just customers, and partners as well. So you need to be really effective at that cross-business execution, but also working across those multiple stakeholder groups. So how you measure the effectiveness of the deliberately designed experience being persistently and consistently executed across your business, that's been a challenge since Fred wrote his book 15 years ago. As a result, Net Promoter Score is pretty much the de facto standard. But you know, it's been around for 15 years. There's a real legacy of having that rich data set, but also people are tired of it. And quite a few folks are adding to NPS, they're including customer effort score, as well as the traditional customer satisfaction score in some organizations. But you know, what's critical, in particular in sectors like financial services and retail, is trust. Trust is really key to actually getting that loyalty and that advocacy and that repeat purchase. So some organizations are measuring something called net trust score. Asking the question, would you recommend, gives you your net promoter score, but does XYZ always have my best interests at heart? And using the same 0 to 10 point scale, net trust score is starting to emerge as a measure that gives you a real handle on how much trust you're building with your key stakeholder groups. So how do you scale AI? How do you get AI started and scaled and embedded in an organization? That's going to be probably the single largest issue facing leaders across large, medium and small organizations in the world. The key issue for leaders, though, is how do you actually encourage folks to use those technologies, but also make sure that the business doesn't fritter away all those resources and those efforts. The organization I've seen that does this best is Coca-Cola. They've actually encouraged everybody, whether you're in building maintenance, in HR, in sales, to use these tools and technologies in your businesses and encourage folks to actually find ways, innovative ways to actually use them. And then they've got really rock solid traditional governance. So you fill in a one pager to say, we're trying to do this, we can't because this technology helps us to achieve it. And that governance group meets, they were meeting monthly, then every 2 weeks, they're now meeting weekly to review the stack of possible AI deployments. And a business that size only allows 5 initiatives at any point in terms of deploying AI. So I think the challenge is encouraging the organization to understand it, use it and leverage it, and then to focus all the muscle and the effort of the organization behind those few initiatives that are going to really make a difference to your business. That's the key issue. So conversational AI, how do you make sure that it really does bring the brand to life? I was at a conference recently where somebody said, you know, all that these technologies are going to do is enable us to actually annoy our customers far more quickly and at scale. Hopefully that won't be the case, but you need to really understand the basics to ensure these technologies really are additive. What do you want your customers, your colleagues, your partners to feel? Yeah? And these conversational tools then need to be in support of that, and you need to be measuring that those emotions are actually being persistently and consistently delivered against it. So the technologies, you need to keep up to speed with what's happening. There are a few places that you can use to actually see what technologies are actually emerging and happening. You need to keep abreast of those, but you need to have clearly in mind what is it we're trying to achieve in terms of our experience goals, and how can each of these technologies support it, and then be really, really focused, not dazzled by the shiny new objects that are going to emerge. And they're going to be incredible technologies, but you need to be really clear about the basics. What are we trying to achieve? What's our emotional goals? And then using that as your frame of reference for these tools.